Welcome in to This Week in Bitcoin, episode 100. My name is Chris las.com, jupiterbroadcasting.com. Well, here we are, big 100. And, I think it really has been some of the most historically consequential time for Bitcoin. And it feels cliche to say it, but it really does seem that way. And also, I mentioned this last week, but it seems just right around episode 99, 100, something has shifted in the world and the world's view of Bitcoin. Now, I'm not trying to overstate this, right? Because it's like every crisis, we bring a new wave, a new class of Bitcoiners. And the conflict with Iran seems to be doing that. And it's not just me saying that. I think it's the folks over at Bloomberg as well.
Bitcoin, for its part, at its highest level going back to early February. Look at that, $75,418. Stocks are racing all losses since the beginning of the war in Iran, February 28th. Speaking of the war, check out what happened over the weekend to Bitcoin. You got to zoom in here on the 11th and the 12th so you can actually see Saturday evening. That's when we got news that peace talks in Pakistan, J.D. Vance, representatives from the U.S. government, and the Iranian government, those failed. You can see the drop right here, then a swift drop the next morning after the president announces that blockade over the Strait of Hormuz. Bitcoin is trading 24/7, so it gives a good barometer in real time of what investors think, at least when it comes to some risk assets. Really interesting move, Scarlett, over the last 8 days. Still a lot of buying, up 8%.
I thought it was interesting that they figured out that little bit of 24/7 trading being a signal for investor interest. I don't know. It just seems like it's taken them a long time to figure that out. Now, the reason why I'm starting with price, even though I never like to start with price, and here I am doing on episode 100, is because yesterday, as I record, Bitcoin nipped at $76,000 US dollars. And the reason why that matters, and we'll get into some of the key drivers, is because it's notable for some of the prominent "the trade is over" skeptics out there, like the folks over at Bloomberg, who said that Bitcoin was going down to $10,000. They said they'd have to reconsider that forecast if Bitcoin touched 75,000 again, and it was nipping at 76. Also, at the same time, Bitcoin seems to have finally started to decorrelate from the software stocks after trading with software for essentially the entire AI pamp. And we've watched it get jerked around as the AI liquidity began to run out, or as the AI liquidity would surge, you'd see Bitcoin get jerked around a lot. And now we're seeing a decorrelation from that. It would seem that the market might be starting to recognize that Bitcoin is not susceptible to AI market disruptions. That is also a big milestone. And you can get a sense, and you can watch this for yourself. It's actually pretty simple. BlackRock takes the entire software stock market and puts it in an iShare ETF called IGV, their expanded tech software sector ETF. So if you look at the ticker trader IGV, and then you compare it, overlay it with the Bitcoin price, you can see that they've begun to decorrelate now for several weeks. So why? Why is some software stocks still going down while Bitcoin is going up? And it seems actually kind of odd timing, if you ask me, because the rate cuts seem like they're less and less likely this year with inflation getting sticky. The situation with Iran hasn't been solved yet. Ships aren't going through the strait at this particular moment. The Clarity Act hasn't been signed. There's fears of a recession in the United States, and it appears that in the EU, they are already forecasting an economic slowdown.
We are also affected in Europe, and we had done some scenario analysis, what it means from European economy. Obviously, it depends on the duration of the conflict and how pronounced the oil and gas price shock is going to be. But depending on those different scenarios, we expect economic slowdown in the EU by some 0.2 to 0.6 percentage points. And increase in inflation, again, according to different scenarios, may exceed 1 percentage point.
Ooh, that's a little rough. So, again, I ask you, where is the pump coming from? And why do we care about a little pump? Even if it could mean nothing in the long term, why do we care? That's what we're going to get into for a moment, because one thing is clear, that there's a bit of risk appetite. It's back right now, perhaps a little optimism around the conflict. They think maybe it's going to wrap up. That's what the market seems to be, or they're pricing through it, as they would say. But just like I said, every recent crisis has sought to teach a new class about Bitcoin. It's people have sought a new solution to their problems in the world that get revealed to them by these conflicts. It's a moment for a new use case to emerge or an understanding of an existing use case begins to emerge when world conflicts or crises like this flare up.
On Truth Social today, President Trump said Iran has, quote, no cards other than a short-term extortion of the world by using international waterways. And last night, he acknowledged reports that Iran is charging tankers to pass through $2 million in Bitcoin per ship, as Iran has publicly claimed. Quote, they better not be, the president wrote, and if they are, they better stop now. Iran, meanwhile, doubled down.
The Strait of Hormuz will not return to the pre-war control system. All movements, traffic, comings and goings in the Strait of Hormuz are under strict, precise, and calculated control of our armed forces.
Okay, to be clear, I'm still not really convinced by the reporting around the Bitcoin and the Strait, but that doesn't really matter. Because in the context of a physical war and also a financial war, this story is getting people's attention. That was PBS. That was on PBS News. So this is Ari Redbord. He stops by, I think this is Bloomberg. He's from TRM Labs. That's a blockchain, analytics firm. And they've been particularly trying to look into this. Is Iran actually using Bitcoin for passage through the Strait of Hormuz?
When we look at how Iran is reportedly using Bitcoin, what does it mean for the way this asset is used around the world, the way you can trace it? You spent time at Treasury studying this stuff. What have you found at TRM Labs?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's a really interesting moment geopolitically. Over the last decade or so, and it's really important to put some framing around this, Iran has looked to every possible means to evade sanctions. And that means circumventing the U.S. financial system. So that means Chinese yuan, that means other types of assets. And of course, now more and more over the years, Iran has been looking to cryptocurrency. First to evade sanctions, and now more and more using crypto infrastructure as scale. And we can get to that in a moment.
As you listen to this clip, in the back of your mind, just sort of appreciate the irony that the use of sanctions has driven entities like Iran to use things like crypto to avoid the ability of sanctions to harm them. It's a real catch-22 when the U.S. weaponizes the dollar system. We saw it with Russia when they entered Ukraine, and then this is just something we've expanded now as a matter of practice. And so these nations are incentivized to route around it. So just noodle on that in the back of your mind as you listen to this guy.
But in terms of the toll at the Strait of Hormuz, I think we're very early in this conversation. I want to be clear, TRM today is not seeing on-chain activity that indicates we're seeing this toll paid in crypto at scale. In fact, really only a few ships reportedly have even gone through.
We might come back if we have time to how they're looking at the blockchain. But see, this is my sense too. Multiple firms have been looking. They're not really seeing any transactions. And the reality is there's not really many ships going through. So at best, it seems maybe 2 have paid in Bitcoin that we can tell, but that is rough at best guesstimations.
At this point, I think the real flag is Iran is starting to look to crypto as one means to evade U.S. financial rails.
And they're doing it on the world stage, right? This is happening in front of everyone. The U.S.'s actions here are showing everyone that there is an alternative to the dollar.
Okay, one means, but if it does move forward with that, isn't every transaction recorded on a public ledger somewhere? I mean, at some point, you should be able to trace it back to what Iran is doing.
And that's exactly right. Unlike, bulk cash, yuan, other types of currencies that move outside the traditional financial system, here, every transaction on a public blockchain, and reportedly Bitcoin is one of the assets involved here, which is obviously an open public ledger. So law enforcement, national security agencies using tools like TRM can track and trace the flow of funds to build investigations and then potentially seize those funds back.
Part of me wants to let them just believe it works like this, because then it doesn't make them look into some of the tooling like Liquid and other things that I appreciate. At the same time, it also means that they use these methods and analyses in legal cases, and people go to jail over some of their findings. or maybe get a missile dropped on them. I don't know.
So it becomes this cat and mouse game, right, between IRGC financial facilitators and national securities to try to stop Iran from off-ramping the funds to be able to use them for weapons proliferation, destabilizing the region, funding terrorists, and that type of activity.
Is there any way to stop Iran from doing that? I mean, certainly two parties need to be involved, and maybe there are incentives that the U.S. and other parts of the world can place on companies or regions that are transacting with Iran using Bitcoin. But
absolutely.
But is the incentive
absolutely?
Actually
And there's
there?
a great recent example. It absolutely, and there is a great recent example. The U.S. Treasury Department recently sanctioned a cryptocurrency exchange, ZSEX, that was being used at scale by the IRGC to launder $1 billion, which will go towards weapons proliferation and other types of destabilizing activity. And that was because TRM, OFAC, other types of entities were able to identify wallet addresses that were associated with the regime that was using this type of crypto infrastructure.
So they're doing basic stuff like they're reusing wallet addresses.
So absolutely, like these become immediate targets for national security agencies globally to go after, and ships that are paying a toll in cryptocurrency, those transactions will be there for the world to see.
Man, how do I get one of these federal government jobs where I'm going after blockchain crime? Wow, what a sweet gig that's got to be, right? Because you're probably getting all the perks and benefits of the law enforcement division, and you're sitting there on a laptop going over analytical data that you're paying all these companies to do. What a gig.
You mentioned that Iran has spent decades looking for creative ways to circumvent U.S. sanctions, the UN, crypto among them, front companies. What will you be watching for to seek evidence, to find evidence that Iran is implementing a lot of this through the crypto ecosystem?
Okay, so this is where we get into some of their methods. He doesn't tell us much, but I think we can infer and figure out a few details, and to me, it doesn't seem super bulletproof.
What we'll be looking for is large transfers involving wallets that we know to be associated or attributed to IRGC, which is Iran's elite military unit, which controls so much of life.
So right there, they're going to look for large transactions. Okay, well, that's a solvable problem, especially on Bitcoin. And then number two, they're going to watch known addresses. So if they just created new addresses for the transactions, then conceivably, would they deceive TRM Labs?
In Iran. That's the ZSEX example. We've seen other similar examples.
See, all of his examples are examples where they reused the same address over and over again.
Are these wallets being used? Are we seeing large sums going into these wallets? Are we seeing large sums move?
Why would anybody do that?
Are we seeing Iranian exchanges like Novitex used at scale? So what we're
Okay, so don't use an Iranian exchange. Okay, problem solved.
looking for is large amounts of funds being transferred.
So this, to me, is the problem. I simply wouldn't transfer large amounts of money in one single transaction, A. And B, I don't want to tell them, but are they aware of things like the Lightning Network and Liquid? Probably not, right?
We've moved from a world where we're seeing sort of one-off transactions here and there to launder funds or maybe violate export control laws to these large infrastructure plays where Iran is really leveraging crypto infrastructure, whether it's stable coins or exchanges, to move funds. So we're looking for large transfers that we can associate directly with IRGC.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Chris, they're not using the Lightning Network, not for a $2 million transaction. I don't know. He just said that they're pretty hip to crypto right there, didn't he? And how do you think these guys out on boats are going to do it? Do you think they're setting up Sparrow Wallet and a cold card and they're doing on-chain transactions? Or do you think they're downloading some app from the App Store? That's what I think they're doing. And that app from the App Store might use Lightning. I mean, we don't know. So their methodologies are old. And I don't know. So, okay, I want to play one more clip from this guy because I think it shows you what a catch-22 the U.S. is in here. So the host asked, well, what can we do here? What can we do to, stop them?
Is there a way to cut Iran off at all?
Ooh, good question.
Oh, it's a great question. This guy has a big smirk on his face because he knows he just asked a good one.
Yeah, I think that the key is to continue to ramp sanctions, essentially.
So the key is to continue to do the thing that is driving them to use crypto and bypass the dollar.
To ensure that if they are moving funds, then they are moving funds outside the U.S. financial system. I think the other piece to this...
Now, the other piece to this is, well, we can't just weaponize the dollar against Iran. We have to weaponize the dollar against everybody that touches Iran. We need to go scorched earth across the entire financial system.
Is to go after those that are potentially violating what we call secondary sanctions. Are one of these ships owned by a large, company? Are there large oil companies involved here? Are there other corporations that are, insurance companies that are involved in some of these shipping channels?
Insurance companies.
Are they involved, even on a secondary basis, with these tolls being paid in cryptocurrency or, frankly, anything else? And that's really where the U.S. can have an impact.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just cutting off Iran, which we've been trying to do for a very long time, but it's cutting off anyone who could possibly conduct business there.
So not only should we do the thing that we've been doing for a very long time that hasn't worked super well, but we should do it to more people. We should spread the weaponization out. This weaponization should get to Kevin Bacon eventually, just further and further out. And of course, what is that going to do? That's going to drive more and more countries away from the dollar. And it's inevitable at this point because it's the only action they can take, so they're going to take it. And what will happen is a expansion of what's already begun. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Marco Rubio seems to realize the clock is ticking and perhaps speeding up on this particular issue.
Today, Brazil, in our hemisphere, largest country in the Western Hemisphere south of us, cut a trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world, totally independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction.
We won't even have the ability to sanction. Man, this administration just says stuff out loud. That's really one of the most amazing statements from a Secretary of State in my lifetime. Listen to what he's saying here. And I think there's some nuance to it as well.
Trade deal with China. They're going to, from now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar.
So Brazil and China are going to do trade in their own currencies and get right around the dollar. See, they're large. They can do that. But there's a lot of countries, like in El Salvador maybe, they're dollarized, but they have a Bitcoin plan B. Right? There's a lot of countries where they could have a plan B in Bitcoin where, for this country, we're going to just go in Bitcoin. Maybe they're not large enough to have a currency that China is interested in trading them with or whatever it might be, right? That's a pretty dynamic situation. You have to be at a certain size. But for all of the other countries around the world, they could just standardize on Bitcoin. So this change could actually happen very, very quickly. 5 years is very fast in macro terms.
From now on, do trade in their own currencies, get right around the dollar. They're creating a secondary economy in the world, totally independent of the United States. We won't have to talk about sanctions in 5 years because there'll be so many countries transacting in currencies other than the dollar that we won't have the ability to sanction them.
But they're just going to keep on doing it. Now, I'm not saying that all of Wall Street has figured this out, but perhaps this is why the Bitcoin price is going up a bit. And Bitcoin-related products, I don't know what you want to call them. I mean, the reality is Bitcoin is outside of all of this risk. And what I'm saying is every crisis, it shows a few more people. It brings another wave onto the network. Or put another way, these world-scale events, they help people understand the value of a scarce digital asset. Now, when I say Bitcoin and Bitcoin-related accessories, I'm mostly talking about the Saylor factor this week. The Saylor financial products consumed a staggering amount of Bitcoin this week. All right, here we go, just to kind of put things in perspective like I do. So far, in 2026, 45,387 Bitcoin have been mined in 2026. 45,387. Strategy has purchased over 108,000 Bitcoin so far this year. Tuesday, April 14th, closed with an estimated 1.57 billion in their strike product volume. 100% of that was above their $100 par threshold, which implied roughly a 16,762 Bitcoin absorption in a single trading day. That's 37 times the daily mine supply in a single trading day. That was Monday. No, I'm sorry, that was Tuesday. Monday was almost as strong. Monday was the ramp up. Monday had 1.17 billion in volume. Again, they acquired a total this week now with Monday and Tuesday combined. In just Monday and Tuesday, the Saylor Financial Products acquired 29,914 Bitcoin via their ATM system in 2 days. And maybe as I record this episode, they are about to surpass iBit in total Bitcoin held. I think that there's some timing with the strike product and the way it works, and so there's kind of a rush at this particular time window, so that's why they saw a large volume. But it definitely got a lot of people's attention. And to snap up around 30,000 Bitcoin in 2 days, when there's only been 45,000 mined in the entire year so far, is an interesting supply dynamic that is setting in. Because the next run, there's going to be a lot less supply. The Saylor factor is going to matter, I suspect, in the next run. We'll see. And they're going to be larger than iBit. And the ETFs, we'll get to that in the updates. The ETFs have had quite a week as well. But we have something more important to get to next. I'm happy to say there was a noticeable walkback of some of the quantum panic this week. I mean, there's still those out there that are really pushing it, but we've had more logical, practical thinkers take to the air, and we have seen some good, practical, technical solutions announced. Let's start here with Rick Edelman. Rick Edelman. He was talking to CoinDesk, and he was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, and I thought this was a good message to go out to the wonks sitting there watching the screens.
It's dumb. And when people say to me they're afraid that quantum computers are going to destroy Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard anybody say. Nobody ever gets hit by a bus they see coming. So if you know that quantum computing is coming and it represents a threat to the Bitcoin blockchain, if someone can build a quantum computer to break into the blockchain, why can't someone use a quantum computer to defend against it? In other words, if you show up with a 10-foot ladder, I'm just going to build a 12-foot wall. So quantum is not only so far away that we don't have to worry about it. When it finally shows up, we'll have the defenses in place. And one final reason it's dumb. They say it's going to cost $6 billion to build that computer. Well, if you had that kind of money and could create that kind of power, you're not going to go after the Bitcoin blockchain. You're a rogue nation. You're a terrorist organization. What are you going to do? You're going to go after our nation's air traffic control system. You're going to go after our electrical grid. You're going to go after our nuclear codes. You're not going to waste your time with Bitcoin. In other words, if you're afraid of quantum, you have a lot more to worry about than Bitcoin.
I think people might say, listening to you say that, there's a lot of money locked up on the Bitcoin blockchain. Why wouldn't a hacker attack the Bitcoin blockchain to
because there's a lot
capital?
Because there's a lot more money at JP Morgan and Bank of America and Wells Fargo and UPS. They're all sitting on far more cash than is worth the total Bitcoin network. So they'll do a Willie Sutton. They're going to go where the money is. And there's a lot more money at Bank of America than there is in Bitcoin.
So why do you think there are so many folks worried about this? So many smart folks, people who have been building very technological minds, talking about this threat.
Technological minds talking about this threat.
There are two kinds of people. Those that are simply looking for headlines, and then smart people who are annoyed genuinely and correctly that the Bitcoin blockchain developers haven't yet done enough to build that 12-foot wall. So they're just trying to get them, let's get on with it. The bus is coming. We don't want to get hit by it.
All right, well, there has been some good progress on that recently. We'll get to that. But I also liked Saylor's new pivot and messaging on this. The reason why I think this one's a good one and I want to play it is you got to figure if you are the news actor asking Saylor these questions, you feel kind of stupid after he answers you, and maybe they'll stop asking.
The most important characteristics of Bitcoin is its security, right? I mean, scarcity has to be one near the top, and the ledger obviously was a genius move by Satoshi, but it seems to be uncrackable. And I'm wondering if that will hold true far into the future with the development of quantum computing. Do you worry about that?
I don't worry about it
And I make the point, Microsoft and Google market their quantum projects, but they would never sell a quantum computer that cracked cryptography because it would destroy their own companies. And there isn't a practical use case for those quantum projects they've been marketing. I think at some point, a decade out, maybe 10, 20 years, maybe whenever, there'll be a powerful computer. It may start to threaten modern cryptography. When it does it, it'll be a threat to Microsoft, Google, JP Morgan, the US government. It may be a threat to Bitcoin. When it is a threat, all of these organizations are going to upgrade their crypto protocols to be quantum resistant. You'll see it coming a mile away, and every other digital entity in the world is more vulnerable to that idea or that threat than Bitcoin. And so they're all going to upgrade, and we'll be talking about it while you're reviewing Microsoft stock or Apple stock exposure.
I don't want to go too deep into this, Michael, because it's only a half-hour program, but I feel like AI could,
All right, so I'm going to leave this answer on here just because I haven't really touched on this much on the show because I'm not really bought in that AI agents are going to be a big consumer of Bitcoin. I think they should be, and I have worked with it a bit. I've experimented using Nostr Wallet Connect and AlbiHub, and I provisioned a small wallet. One of the great things with AlbiHub is you can set limits on those and some, guardrails. And AlbiHub is really easy to get working with an agent. You can set a small budget. And it is really good, and it makes a lot of sense. However, I just am not a big believer at scale it's going to be the use case. I mean, this is going to be something Visa and MasterCard, they're already working on solutions. This is going to be something stable coins are probably the go-to for. I don't know. I mean, I could see them doing trading. I could see having agents that are buying and selling based on limits, essentially a fancy limit order. But I don't know if I'm going to see them actively consuming and purchasing things in the economy using sats. But so I wanted to leave this answer on here because I'd like to get your take, what you think on this answer.
This, Michael, because it's only a half-hour program, but I feel like AI could, everyone's worried that AI may turn on us, and this could be a way in which AI has real power. Is that not the kind of thing that keeps you up at night?
What the? I hate that cliche so much. I really do. I hate that cliche. Is that not the kind of thing that keeps you up at night? Could you please hate that cliche for me, too? We need more people hating this cliche. I'm not even sure what the question was, but Saylor handles it just fine.
A way in which AI has real power. Is that not the kind of thing that keeps you up at night?
I'll make a point here. The typical person might do 10,000 transactions in their lifetime, maybe 100,000 if they're very busy. The AIs are going to do 100,000 transactions a minute. They're not going to suffer the existing credit systems and the existing banking systems of the 20th century. They're going to want to move digital money at high frequency at the speed of light. That means digital assets like Bitcoin over the Lightning Network or via layer 3 protocols.
What?
The demand for digital capital, which is what Bitcoin is, and digital networks like Lightning and like all of the crypto protocols that are being worked on right now, it's going to go through the roof. So I think AI is really a demand driver for Bitcoin. It's going to accelerate the entire digital assets economy. And no, I'm not worried about the threat. The AIs can't crack, public-private key cryptography. What they can do is imitate you and talk you into doing something stupid if you're listening to them. And so they're a threat to all the other systems in the world, not to Bitcoin.
You can hear, okay. So I'm curious to know what your take on if you think agents are going to use Bitcoin. Boost in and let me know. So we have seen some technical progress on the quantum side too, and I think that's helping people sort of allay, what is the term? Simmer the F down. Last week I mentioned some research by Blockstream where they were going to do some testing on the Liquid network. Well, this week we got a couple of different proposals. Let's start with BIP 361, the Bitcoin Improvement Proposal 361, which is interesting.
Stay a while and listen.
One big claim in the proposal is that over 34% of all Bitcoin has already revealed a public key on chain, making a meaningful chunk of the supply potentially exposed to potential quantum attacks, if such should ever show up. The draft proposal is to force a migration away from legacy Bitcoin signatures. The idea is a phased sunset. First, users would only be allowed to send to new post-quantum addresses. Then later, old quantum vulnerable spends would become invalid entirely. The argument's pretty direct. This turns quantum defense into a private incentive. You need to move your coins within a certain amount of time, or you're going to face major friction and then eventually lose the ability to spend your vulnerable outputs altogether, putting the onus on you. I think you could say one of the key concepts, in my opinion, of BIP 361 is the authors they're trying to start a discussion. They're not actually proposing this gets implemented, I don't think. And they, in this scenario, clearly prefer freezing vulnerable or lost coins over letting anyone recover them with any kind of quantum attack that might come along. I think, in other words, they think it's better to burn them than let quantum thieves redistribute supply later on. But I still don't know if I see the worst case justifying freezing people's property. I mean, let's say you end up in the hospital or in jail or on a desert island enjoying a 2-year vacation. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with something positive. And you miss the window and then you come back and you can't spend your Bitcoin. And let's say their number, 34%, is correct. Now, that's significantly higher than any number we've ever heard previously. But let's go with it. I still don't know if the long-term problem justifies the means. 34% of supply getting redistributed would be a horrendously painful event. Bitcoin's enjoyed multiple 80% drawdowns and came back stronger than ever. So if you had people that were active in Bitcoin that were protecting themselves with whatever quantum protection it needs to be, and the remaining keys were left vulnerable, that redistribution, while painful, would still be survivable without having to seize anyone's property. But it is an interesting discussion. The other quantum safe proposal that came out is Quantum Safe Bitcoin, QBS. Now, this proposal, it tries to make Bitcoin transactions quantum resistant without changing consensus rules, no soft fork, no new opcode, no new address type, just really kind of a weird construction built inside of what is available today with Bitcoin script limits. The core pitch is using the existing Bitcoin script plus a hash-based signature and a proof-of-work style search process, so security no longer depends on the ECDSA or something like what might be easy to break with a quantum computer with Shor's algorithm. The trade-off is, well, it's kind of a ugly and expensive operation. The spend requires a GPU brute force search, a very large script, and likely a minor direct submission because the transaction is non-standard and probably wouldn't go across most of the network unless we all updated our nodes and all the miners updated. The authors estimate that the compute cost is roughly going to be around $75 to $150 per spend, with the current implementation still incomplete end-to-end. They have tested part of it, but not all of it. Now, my view is this gives us an actual path for a worst-case scenario. This is an escape hatch solution, this QBS. It's hacky, it's expensive, but it could actually be implemented fairly quickly inside the existing rules if things got scary fast enough. So I look at it as an engineering workaround, not a clean protocol path here, not a clean solution, but it is clever, and it's a nice emergency technique that we have in the future should we need. So with existing technology today, even though it would be expensive, we could solve for this. So you've got BIP 361. That's a plan to kind of, I'd say, change Bitcoin itself and essentially make some coins unspendable eventually, where QSB is a clever hack to route around the problem without having to upgrade Bitcoin first. But from a technical side, we've had the Blockstream research, and now we've had this BIP 361, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's an interesting proposal, and we've got QSB. And this is all landing at the same time. You've got rational speakers going on the air showing how stupid the quantum FUD is. And in these last couple of weeks, it's actually eased up on some of the pressure. I really just can't believe it. So I have a Saylor-related question for you. You know, in that interview, he calls Bitcoin digital capital. He talks about this a lot. And a while back on the show, I asked you if comparing Bitcoin to digital gold was underselling Bitcoin, which maybe would come back and bite us one day. And I've been thinking about this a little bit in the context of Saylor and how he likes to talk about Bitcoin. He doesn't like to push on the money aspect. He doesn't want people to think about it as a currency. He wants you to think about it as real estate. And Jeff Booth kind of put this into words in a recent interview. I think it was on What Bitcoin Did. And he says that while Saylor's doing a lot of good for Bitcoin, the way he's framing Bitcoin may actually limit its total potential.
If you just held Bitcoin and didn't spend it, and it looked like that, then Bitcoin would get centralized, just like people held gold. And they used a monetary system that they knew was always broken. And why they needed an asset underpinning the monetary system is because the monetary system was broken. And so Bitcoin is different in that way, in that you don't need an asset underneath the monetary system because the money isn't broken. The money itself is the network. And you can store your money in money without having to store it in a piece of paper tied to a broken monetary system. So that change is another huge change in our perspective of what reality looks like. Now, in Bitcoin, you have a whole camp of people talking about digital credit and what that would look like. You have an entire camp of people that believe that this is the strongest asset in the world, but it's not money. It's credit. Well, what is credit? Credit is loaned into existence from nothing. So if you had the strongest asset in the world and you had this credit that was loaned into existence for nothing, then most people would centralize their Bitcoin just like they centralize gold. And you would have this nonsense system of broken money on top of gold. And then what would happen eventually is gold would break, right? You'd reprice gold. And so we can expect, if we look back at history and we know human nature, we can expect these things to happen. We can expect lots of people to be fooled, just like they were in FTX, just like they were in some of these others, and like they will be again. We can expect tons of people to go into ETFs, trusting somebody else, removing their own agency, and trusting somebody else to get a higher yield. And if Bitcoin all looked like that, if it looked like that, it won't. But if it all looked like that, it would fail.
So, like, you're obviously talking about Saylor there.
And again, I want to be careful of this because I can coexist in a world that I like Saylor. I think he's good for Bitcoin. I think he does a lot of great things. I actually like and I'm an investor in the business, at least in my RSP, an investor in the business. But think he's brilliant, but also disagree with him on a fundamental premise of it. And he can be right for a long time. He can actually be right. He can consolidate a lot of Bitcoin by telling the world that it's just an asset. But that is fundamentally different than it is money and it is used as money. And so I can like him. I can think he's really smart. I can see a lot of things that he does that are well for this, and I can disagree with him on that I believe it's a protocol, and the protocol is emerging as money and privacy and everything else. It's a new internet protocol. So that's why I want to be careful of the creating an us versus them and everything, because it's really easy to bite and say, yeah, he's terrible and everything else. He's done a lot of great things for Bitcoin, and a whole bunch of people that have understood his actions in Bitcoin will then in turn understand it's a protocol.
Okay, so here's my question to you. Is Saylor intentionally calling Bitcoin just an asset, just digital credit, I think he calls it sometimes? Is he calling it that just so that way he can stack as much as possible before people figure it all out? Or does he not fully understand that Bitcoin is a currency, it's a protocol, it's a monetary network? He must, right? I think he does. But what do you think? Is he intentionally kind of underselling it? And why would he be intentionally underselling it? And I worry myself, if he is, that sort of misprices in a way. It contextualizes what Bitcoin is capable of. Boostin, Be one of the first to boost in the 100 series and let me know what you think if Saylor isn't intentionally misleading people there and what his motivation might be. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? Maybe it's a clever stacking strategy. Yeah. It's a way that you can boost Bitcoin at the same time. You can kind of still get in and under before people really figured it out. You think that's maybe what's going on? I don't know. Boost in. Let me know and support the show. You can also support the show just by doing what you do. If you want to stack sats on River, use my link in the show notes. It's one of the best ways to stack sats in the US, and they just added new features like bill pay and more, so you can use it as your full account. Now, if you're all about self-custody and you're in Canada or the States, the Bitcoin Well is an amazing automatic self-custody platform. They don't even have a wallet for you. You host the wallet. It's really cool. If it's time to spend some of your sats, the Bitcoin company makes it easy to go from Lightning to a gift card in just seconds. You don't even have to have a login. You can log in with Lightning. And the only thing they support is Bitcoin. If you want to stack sats passively, the Fold card's one of the ninja moves because you can stack sats while you pay bills, boosts on certain gift cards as well, and things like that. It's an audience favorite there. Then, if it's time to get access to your Bitcoin without selling it, check out Salt Lending. Lower loan limits than most. They have a great protection mechanism too should Bitcoin drop. And I've used them from time to time and been really happy with the results. No official relationship with these companies, just ones I use, and you can support the show by doing what you do by clicking those links in the show notes.
And 7 boosts to go.
It is time for some boosts, and we got a lot of support for episode 100.
Yes, hi.
And we're going to start with our baller booster this week. It is Satsquatch with 976,866 sats.
That's a spicy meatball.
You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best around.
That's not possible. Nothing can do that.
You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down.
Woo! How about that? Is that not incredible? How about that? Satsquatch writes, "Hey, Chris, the Secret Thousand Oaks meetup salutes episode 100 with some donations from our members. Hope this finds you well. I had a glitch on my AlbiHub for the first try. I upgraded to the 4.0 Beta 5, but I finally got it working. Sorry to miss you at BitBlock Boom this year, but maybe next. It is their 10th anniversary on 4/2/27. And then he followed up with a LN URL boost. I'm hoping you get this in celebration of 100. Yahoo! Keep up the great work. This boost is from some of the members at the Secret Thousand Oaks meetup. I gotta get there. Man. I gotta get there. And he ends with a live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
Thank you very much, Thousand Oaks crew and Satsquatch. Appreciate you very much. You guys feeling the love, and I gotta make it out there.
Yes, sir. Sirdy, sir.
Thank you so much, you guys. That is an amazing baller boost, and I appreciate that.
You make me want to be a better man.
Derivation Dingus comes in with a strong one as well. 214,200 sats. Wow. That is... Hey, Chris, I suck at show ideas, but I liked the idea of looking back at episode 1. That episode is extra special to me because you recommended Broken Money. That book and this show have made a massive positive impact on my life. Happy 100 episodes. Thank you very much. I think that could be a good special. I like that idea, Derivation. I appreciate that baller boost. BTC is my 401k comes in with 200,000 sats.
I hoard that which your kind cover.
Woo! Also an incredible boost. Thank you very much.
He's a good guy.
He's a real good guy.
For value, he says, +1 for keeping the show going. Even with ads, if you need. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Adversary 17 is here with 101,755 Satoshis! Wow, you guys.
Pump the brakes right there.
Wow, that's incredible. That is, whoo.
Well, let's hear it, good buddy.
Thank you very much, adversaries. +1 to expanding on the update section, discussing the implications of changes. All right. And +1 to what Bitcoin conf settings you run and why. All right. Signal received. And I will begin reworking bits of the update segment. Probably you'll notice over the next few weeks. Thank you for that. He also says, thank you for the episode. I have taken the plunge into Nix OS. I set up a full Lightning stack on Nix Bitcoin and set aside, the side effect of was I had to install Nix OS on my main server at home now. I blame you, Chris. And for those of you asking on the mining pool update, oh, here we go, guys. Here we go. He says, I have a proof of concept set up. However, it is based on the project called P2P Pool V2. The payout system doesn't work yet, so there's no point for me to share the link for us to burn energy without the reward. The pool by default uses PPLNS to share, but there aren't any other payout methods being implemented. I will update again when the minimum viable product of easy for me to say, guys, P2 Pool V2 is available. And he says Bitcoin, oh, this would have been good. Bitcoin Dad guest appearance. You know, I got to catch up with him. He's been very busy, so I haven't really been in constant contact with him. I'd like to know how he's doing. That would be a good follow-up episode. Be a good episode, too, when I'm traveling. Great idea. Thank you, adversaries. Appreciate you.
Live long and prosper.
And love those ideas. Noted. Thank you very much. Producer Jeff's here with 110,101 sats. Wow.
Fun will now commence.
Why does the host always have to celebrate the episode milestone? How about the audience celebrates with a boost? Boost! Here's some of my binary sats to help celebrate the compute that showed you the Bitcoin and ultimately brought us the show. Thanks for all the hard work. Thank you, PJ. Appreciate that. BMW Vroom's here with 100,100 sats. Woo! Wow, how about that, huh? I mean, is this some 100 love or what? And he says the traders love the 100th episode.
The traders love the vol.
Thank you very much, BMW. Appreciate you. Morph Sausage is also here with 100,000 sats. Wow, I gotta have something better than that. I hit the random one on that. Give me something good.
Good news, everyone.
That's not bad. Give me another one.
Wee bit of a deep dive.
A bit of a deep dive.
Wee bit of a deep dive.
A bit of a deep dive.
There you go. You're getting deep dive there, Amorphous. I hope you like that. Wee bit of a deep dive. 1K sats for each amazing episodes. Cheers to 100 and congrats, Chris. People tell you that you're their favorite Bitcoin podcast. I tell you, you're the only Bitcoin podcast I need. Value provided without outbursts and sound arguments is amazing. About the lack of supports for JB shows, ever thought about bringing back the fake boosts? Blasphemous to ask, I know. You know, they were popular a couple of times, but the fake boost, which was a Zaprite web form, never really seemed to take off beyond that. But I do think maybe for occasional event fundraising and whatnot, it could make sense. I also think it could be great for swag sales. I really would like to have some Twib swag. You know, that would, oh man, that'd have been great for 100. I'm sorry about that, guys. Now I think about it. But I will keep you updated, Amorphous, when things like that roll out. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Maris February comes in with 100,000 sats.
There's coffee in that nebula.
They're real and they're spectacular.
Celebrating episode 100.
BOOST.
Thank you, Marius. Appreciate that. Zach Achilles is also here with 100,000 sats.
They're real and they're spectacular.
Oh, come on. This random is no good. Come on. There we go. Achilles writes, Twib always jumps to the top of my podcast queue every week. How about 100,000 sats to say thank you for 100 episodes? Love it. A lot of you guys landed on that. That is really generous. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tarsa24, I'm probably not saying that right. Tara SA 24 comes in with also 100,000 sats for that.
Little ship. Little.
For that, I had to give it at least a couple of attempts. 100,000 sats for 100 episodes. Thank you for the reliable supply of wider economic news coverage. It keeps me mostly sane in the current climate. Well, your takes do, not necessarily what some people in the so-called economy experts spew. Keep it up. Thank you very much. Yeah, hopefully, right? I mean, some of this stuff, they really come in with a lot of hyperbole, right? Sometimes you just got to pump the brakes.
Just pump the brakes right there.
Appreciate that boost. Bobby Pin's also here with 100,000 sats.
This is the way.
This is awesome. Thank you. Bobby Pin writes, episode 100 celebration. Hopefully more to come. Thank you, Bobby Pin. It's really nice to hear from you.
This is a tasty burger.
J Cube 3 comes in with 61,200 sats.
I like you. You're a hot ticket.
Happy 100th episode. I know you love to keep, I know I would love if you kept it going, and I also tend to agree more with Lynn in that last analysis. Yeah, I like it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. User 54 comes in with 50,000 sats.
You a boost.
It says meow. Well, meow to you too. Meow. Hodler comes in with 50,000 sats. Hey, Chris, congratulations on the 100th episode. Peace and love. Thank you. Thank you very much. OB's here with 37,000 sats. Keep it up, Chris. I also skipped the episode you did when you strayed from the normal show structure, but take it as a compliment. Love the show. Hope it continues. This Bitcoin thing is just getting started. Agreed. I do take it as a compliment. I thought about it, and you're right. You are right. Thank you, OB. Appreciate you. And I would probably understand if I were to, I could probably do the same thing if I was listening to it. I get it. MDS comes in with 35,000 sats.
Put some macaroni and cheese on there, too.
Value for value is a two-way street. Do what makes you happy, and congrats on episode 100. Thank you very much. Nice to hear from you, MDS. Hey, Kiwi Bitcoin Guide's back. 25,000 sats. Congrats on the 100th episode, Chris. How to celebrate? Do whatever you want. Just have some fun. I guess sounds like a good idea. Ooh, what about listeners calling in? I'm surprised to hear you say that you're thinking of stopping. I hope you don't. I hope you continue and listen, and I'll support you as long as you keep going. But you got to do what feels right for you and the family. May the force be with you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, I've been thinking about it, and, I think what I'll do is I'll address that at the end of the boost segment. But thank you for that, Kiwi.
This is the way.
Tomato comes in with 21,000 sats.
21 gigawatts!
Happy 100 episode. I hope the show keeps going and being worth what you make it, because I appreciate listening to it. Banger of an episode 99 too. Thank you.
Make it so.
Thank you very much. Paranoid Coder comes in with 6,000 sats. Sad to hear about your conflicting feelings on the podcast. It's genuinely one of my favorites I listen to. So at least I commit to doubling my sats on each podcast as a small incentive. Wow, thank you very much. I had to do a second boost. I realized the Pocket Cast added a button for supporting podcasts. That opens Fountain. And from there, you can boost with your Fountain wallet on a Lightning invoice. What? What? Has anybody else tried this? I'm an incredibly long time Pocket Cast user, and I've had a hard time switching to Fountain app. This feels closer to the best of both worlds. What?
Well, be dipped.
I have not heard that. I got to experiment with that. And I could see a nice combo there. That's interesting. Thank you, Paranoid Coder. Gene Bean's here with 8,559 sats.
This is a tasty burger.
I've stopped using Fountain to support the show because boosts constantly get cut off. I do miss having my Twib boosts also show on Nostr, but Cast-O-Matic is awesome and always gets the entire boost to you. I'd love to see oil purchase. That is, the nice thing too about the Fountain one is the Nostr stuff helps with the charts, but I get it, and Cast-O-Matic's great. I'd love to see oil purchases associated fees paid in Bitcoin. Talk about coming front and center on the world stage. I really hope you do keep going, though. I'd rather see you take on advertisers than throw in the towel, as I find the content extremely useful and quite enjoyable. Happy 100th episode. Okay, that's, the advertising thing is such a tricky one for a Bitcoin podcast. I'd have to get that just right.
Yes, hi.
Thank you, Gene. Good to hear from you. Katano's here with 7,000 sats.
Did you buy that from a certified vendor?
How about a look back at the main stories from episode 1 for an anniversary? Love the show. Only discovered a few weeks ago, and now is the only podcast I look forward to listen to every single week. Keep it up, please. Well, thank you very much. That is, wow.
You make me want to be a better man.
Y'all making me feel real good. Thank you very much. It's really a nice thing to hear. Somebody that, sitting here working hard on the show. Let me tell you, I really do appreciate that. Loomer's here with 10,000 sats.
Boost!
Yeah, sends a peace sign. Thank you. Ed Broughton's back with, it's been forever, right? Here with 5,000 sats.
Danger Zone?
Value to bump my streaming contribution. You've been a streamer.
Danger Zone.
Thank you. WTF is here with 2,601 sat.
Fun will now commence.
Fanboying here a bit, but also I think you were the first podcast to read one of my comments into the consciousness of anyone. As to your 100th episode question, have you ever thought about an audience shift? I listened to Lynn Aldwin on Peter McCormack's show this week, and her message was beautifully adjusted to his new audience. If you wanted to get your message out to another group, like Peter has, who would be your target audience? I don't really think of it that way. I think there's so much potential current and future Bitcoin audience. I actually think Peter kind of threw the towel in early, and the bringing back of what Bitcoin did shows you that, perhaps, to a degree. I'm happy that if he's getting success, though. But I think there's a lot of, it's going to take a bit. But thankfully, the clowns that run the world governments are just creating more listeners for me on a daily basis. That's a good question, but I don't know if I think of it in that way. Yeah, I think maybe there's an opportunity for some Bitcoin podcaster to go after disillusioned gold bugs. I don't know. It's good. Now you got my noodle turning. Thank you, WTF. Appreciate that. JPEG81 is here with 2,200 sats.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This episode was a great one. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Joey DD is here with 10,000 sats.
Those in a nickel will get you a cup of coffee.
No, you can't sunset Twib. It's clear you put a ton of effort into the show. The sound effects are fun and all that, but it must be very time-consuming. I would prefer many more episodes of Twib that maybe ease up on the effort it takes to polish it up so it's so nice. It might be worth the trade-off. Your news choices and opinions are very valuable. I guess probably by sound effects, you probably mean the clips. Yeah, the clips are definitely a big part of the work. That is true. Phil P. Martino's here with 2,121 sats.
Chuck E. Cheese guy whiffed it.
One of my favorite Bitcoin news shows. I look forward to them every week. Episode 100 coming soon. Oh, thank you. You're spreading the word there for me on Nostr, aren't you? I do appreciate that very much. Coach Rick is here with 2,100 sats. Woo, hello, Coach Rick.
Everything's under control.
He says, happy 100. And I just set up BitX and I'm ready to join the Twib JB pool. Thanks for all your efforts. Well, stand by. I'll update you as soon as we have it.
Let's go.
Cause Now is here with 5,000 sats.
This is the way.
100! Thank you. Appreciate you. Magnolia Mayhem's back with 6,667 sats.
Make it so.
I know Quantum is the current FUD du jour, but I heard one this week that gave me a giggle and I wanted to see your reaction to it. Mining is what verifies the transactions, right? And there are only so many Bitcoins out there, right? So when the last Bitcoin is mined, the network will just dissolve like toilet paper. Of course, I'll be dead by then. He'll be happy to make it 50, this guy. But what about those poor future people that have never heard of fees? Yeah. There's a very selfish part of me that wants this show to keep going forever, but I have to admit, if people are slow to support, do what you can do. Beyond 100, yes, please, but there's nothing forever, and a graceful death is more respectful than a drawn-out decline. Yeah. We also need more value for video music show support. I agree there, too. All right, I have thoughts on that. We'll come back to that. I gave it a think. After our talk, I gave it a think. Philip is here with 10,000 sats.
Big, juicy van.
Hey, Chris, great content, great format. Your show checks all the boxes for me. I definitely miss it hugely if you stopped. On the one hand, I'm a big believer in leaving the party while you're still having a good time as a rule of life. You're such an energetic and innovative guy. It's clear to me that if you pause the show, something else would soon emerge. Happy 100th episode. Massive achievement. P.S. I side with Lynn. Thank you, Philippa. You know what? I think we all sided with Lynn on that one. It's not that, I don't mean to, bash on Luke, but he's such a bear these days. He's just gone total bear, And so it's, I don't know. Usually the truth is somewhere in the middle, right? Thank you. Appreciate your boost. HB Gardens is here with 10,000 sats.
The hell was that? Spaceball 1. They've gone to plaid.
Congrats on episode 100, and I love the show.
Live long and prosper.
Spooky Satcom's here with 10,000 sats.
Oh, I'm in.
Live boost. Woo-hoo. Thank you, Spooky. Mutum M comes in with 2,267 sats. Oh.
I hate building PCs.
Ooh, we got a double Brent. The Spaces Protocol launched on mainnet last week. Spaces Protocol is a naming system anchored on the base layer of Bitcoin that provides completely sovereign, human-readable names, associated data. Spaceprotocols.org. All right, thank you for the boost. Ace Ackerman's here with a row of ducks. Slow unwind of the dollar. Congratulations on a victorious Twib, episode 100. Well, thank you, Ace. Nice to hear from you. Crocodile Donk the Doggo. I think this came in, with 6,000 sats. Great episode. Thank you. I really liked the commentary on the economics of the U.S.-Iran war. Look forward to episode 100. Please don't stop. Thank you. Turd in the Punch Bowl came in with 2,000 sats. 100. Keep going. Woo! And that right there is all the above 2,000 sats. Thank you, everybody. Really, really appreciate the support for episode 100. Let's run down the numbers. We had 32 of you stream sats as you listened, and collectively you stacked 63,590 sats. When you combine that with our boosters, and you know this is going to be a big one because we had some big boosts, we stacked for this episode an incredible 2,719,954 sats. Holy crap! You know, I also have to say,
Stop it. Get some help.
You know, that's amazing. You guys, thank you so much. As I record this episode right now, it just blows me away. It blows me away, and I have to tell you, you know, family situations have been changing recently to the expensive side. I just had 2 of our cars break down. Yes, I have a family SUV, and then I have a commuter for my wife. Both of them broke down, right? I'm starting a chicken farm, all of this stuff. The shows don't have advertising like the level they need to. It has been a tremendously expensive beginning of the year. And to see support like this come in after putting a lot of work in the last few episodes, like I always do. And not only that, but putting work into improving the workflow. And I'll get into a bit more of this, but kind of investing in a way that makes the show more sustainable. To see this kind of support right as all that is landing is really, really perfect timing. The last 3 episodes of This Week in Bitcoin are all in the top 10 trending episodes on Fountain right now. Total domination of the chart. And that signal out there helps people find the show. That's why I really care about it, because it helps people find the show. This is a Bitcoin podcast powered by its audience. It really matters on this kind of topic. It's content for the people, literally made possible by the people. So I'm not stopping at 100. I can't stop at 100. I've had to think. I'm going to let myself experiment from time to time with shorter formats, not different formats, just a shorter episode, still focused on the news and getting macro coverage in there and getting the Bitcoin coverage in there. But you see, one of my big struggles behind the scenes with this show is that for my podcast, Linux Unplugged, it has me traveling several times a year. And when I travel, I'm traveling to work and cover an event. And we work hard and we really focus, and there really isn't any free time. So I always get really guilty because I have to cut out my TWIB prep time. And maybe I could prep half a show, and I just feel really bad about not doing a full, complete job. And so I'd rather just not do a show than do a half-prepared show. That's been my struggle behind the scenes. And it's been this guilt trip I get myself into, because the downside is when I take a week, or especially if I take 2 weeks off, but if I take even a week, if I really take 2 weeks off, the show tends to take about a 3-month hit to the boosts and the downloads. Now, we just fixed that trend. But it's a big penalty for me to miss an episode or two because we lose a lot of momentum in the growth of the show. So what I'm thinking is my post 100 strategy will be, I'm going to do the show I have prep for. So I'm not going to stress about filling an hour, and I'm going to do the show I have prep for. I've also been making some really nice progress on streamlining some of the clip collection process. It's not perfect yet, but it's getting much faster and streamlined for me. I've also set up some systems to do historical reviews of topics and check for sourcing, things like that I still have to overview, but does a lot of the legwork for me, which is really fantastic. And I think those things combined, when I really get them nailed down, will help me with the production when I'm traveling or a family event comes up. Like Linux Fest Northwest is just around the corner. That's going to be a really busy week for me because, next week? There's people coming in town, right? And I want to see these people. They're not only that, but I got stuff I got to prepare for. We got gear we got to assemble. It's like those times get really busy when there's a fest going on or something like that, especially one in my backyard. So those weeks, I'm going to do the show I have the prep for, and I'm going to do my best job, but it might not be a full show. But then we get something out there, I think. And we'll see I'll get your feedback. I'll listen to your boosts and your feedback on it, and we'll kind of pivot and figure it out from there. But that's kind of my thinking as we continue on, because it's really, not only does the boost segment demonstrate it, but the timing of episode 99 and 100 with the conflict and all of this that's going on and the world waking up to the weaponization of the dollar being something they can bypass just feels like a major monumental moment in the history of Bitcoin. And it's crazy because the reason why I really wanted to start the show when I did, even though I've been following Bitcoin forever and I've been doing the Bitcoin Dad, literally following Bitcoin, literally for as long as Bitcoin's basically been around. And the reason why I started TWIB was I recognized what a historical moment for Bitcoin the launch of the ETFs was. And I knew that was another moment in history, a pivot moment. There's been several of them. Some bad ones, some good ones. And this feels like another one. It's not directly related to Bitcoin, but it's a moment in history that's going to matter for Bitcoin. And it's happening right around episode 100, and I just can't ignore that. This could be years of content, you know? So, yeah, as long as I can keep it going, I will. As long as you guys keep supporting. I'm going to try. I don't know if I'll go forever, but let's see if we can't get close to episode 200 at least. You know, and then we can think about it as we get close. That's what I say. But thank you everybody so much who supported the show. I mean, this was really a barn burner. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Thank you. And if you would like to boost the show, Fountain makes it really easy. AlbiHub gives you access through so many different avenues. And then, of course, there's a membership program, which should get more valuable as the year goes through. And you can sign up directly through Fountain with Sats or Fiat, or you can become a Jupiter.party member. The features are not parity yet. I don't have a great way to do that without creating some custom feeds. So there is sometimes some exclusive content on the Fountain side, but eventually it should be everywhere. So that's an incredible boost segment for episode 100. Thank you, everyone. And with that, let's keep going. We still have a lot of show to do, and we have some updates. Let's just talk about ETFs for a moment. I mentioned they were kind of a big deal after all. And this week feels, well, I don't know, like another capitulation from bankers that have talked crap. So first, let's follow up on the big stand. Remember, we talked last week, about Morgan Stanley's ETF. It's going very, very well.
Terms of where the market is. But I have to tell you, in terms of the pickup we saw yesterday, the first day of trading, our best first day of trading for any of our ETFs since we've started the ETF product line a couple years ago. So I think that speaks to the demand that's still out there.
You think other banks might notice that? Morgan frickin' Stanley's most successful ETF ever since they've done ETFs is their Bitcoin ETF.
We saw yesterday, the first day of trading, our best first day of trading for any of our ETFs since we've started the ETF product line a couple years ago. So I think that speaks to the demand that's still out there for the Bitcoin ETF. Almost 1.7 million shares traded yesterday, and at 12 o'clock today, we are already having another good day today. As you said, it's a nice week in the market, a nice day in the market for some pickup in Bitcoin and the markets to help us out there.
And there's a nice.
So this is a signal, and you may recall, I think I played this around episode 79, our good buddy Jamie Dimon just completely S-talking Bitcoin on CNBC.
We pretty much always have some crypto conversation with you. I'm just curious, because I don't think we've talked to you since...
I think all that's been a waste of time, and why you guys waste any breath on it is totally beyond me.
Because you just think the whole thing just is
going to zero?
Going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped-up fraud. It's a pet rocket.
You're back to that?
Yeah,
really?
Of course, yeah.
So what do you make then of BlackRock and other firms that are investing in infrastructure?
No, that's different. Blockchain is a technology ledger system that we use to move information. We've used it to do overnight repo, intraday repo. We've used it to move money.
Right.
So that is a ledger. That's a technology ledger type of thing that we think will be deployable. Remember, we've been talking about that for 12 years too, and very little's been done.
There's some tokens that I agree with you on, but Bitcoin's based on a distributed ledger. Yeah, it has all the characteristics of a store of value. It's immutable. It's scarce.
Totally untrue. It's
21 million.
Well, yeah, really. How do you know it's going to stop at 21 million?
Because
I've mentioned this to people
Satoshi.
Too. Everyone says that. Well, maybe it's going to get to 21 million, and Satoshi's picture is going to come up and laugh at you all and say, no.
There isn't a picture.
And by then, Satoshi will have taken out billions of dollars.
Nobody around him tells him how this stuff works. The issuance schedule, difficulty adjustment, the fact that it's open source code, that if a JPEG was in there, somebody would have found it. I just had to play that clip, though. Why? because our buddy Eric Balkenhaus over at Bloomberg notes that Goldman Sachs has filed for a Bitcoin ETF. More banks are capitulating. More banks. 21 weeks later, more banks going in. Now, the Goldman Sachs one's pretty interesting. They're doing a Bitcoin premium income ETF. They're using a Cayman Islands subsidiary, you know what I'm talking about, a sub company. Apparently, I'm getting tired. Guys, boy, have I, boy. All right, anyways, but sleep would be nice. So they're using a shell company in the Cayman Islands to comply with commodity rules while giving exposure via spot Bitcoin ETF and options. The fund sells call options on Bitcoin holdings to generate a premium income, aiming to deliver Bitcoin exposure with reduced volatility, of course, and yield for conservative investors that are seeking, quote, boomer candy, as the author of the article puts it. Boomer candy. I didn't come up with that term. They did. They're calling, there's a meme going around that yield is just boomer candy, and anything that offers yield, boomers buy up, and they don't care about anything else. Balkenhaus contrasts this with BlackRock's, which is not using a subsidy or a shell company. I think this is a remarkable turnaround to see Goldman Sachs do this. It's incredible how they crap talk it. You have guys like Jamie with JP Morgan out there crap talking it, and then they go and they get in the business. And Goldman Sachs crap talked the Bitcoin ETFs when they launched. Now they're doing some sort of whacked up Bitcoin ETF to catch up. And the big stand, MSBT, it's up 8% since the launch a week ago. It's pretty good. Now, right after I got off the air last week, the New York Times painted a big target on Adam Back's back. I talked about Adam Back because he went on and he did some FUD busting. And the New York Times revealed this long, lengthy piece that they've been investigating, and they determined that Adam Back is Satoshi Nakamoto. And I want to just go through this a bit because as a community, we have to push against this. The kind of danger they put somebody like Adam in by doing this is disgusting, and it's irresponsible. But let's start with their setup because, the New York Times has lots of media that they like to produce around their stories.
These documents in front of me contain important clues as to the real identity of Satoshi Nakamoto.
All right, so this is the New York Times author. I'll put a link in the show notes if you care.
The pseudonymous inventor of Bitcoin. In the past 17 years, more than 100 names have been put forward as potential Satoshis. The list runs the gamut from an Irish cryptography student to even Elon Musk.
So if he knows about all these names, then he must know that other people have claimed Adam is Satoshi over and over and have been disproven.
One of the names that's come up often is that of a British cryptographer named Adam Back.
So what I love about what this guy essentially admits to us is that he took all this, put it into an LLM, and he got a bunch of slop answers back. Guess what the LLM suggested? The person that has been suggested being Satoshi Nakamoto a whole bunch of times on the internet. That's what the LLM returns.
I was convinced that the only way to solve this mystery was to glean clues from his writings. Satoshi has long been thought to have been a member of the cypherpunks. I started to spot similarities between Adam Back's writing and Satoshi's writing.
So this guy thinks he's a big language guy, and he's going to crack it because he understands language in a way nobody else does.
I noticed that Satoshi and Adam Back were both pathologically incapable of using hyphens correctly. They tended to hyphenate compound nouns, which you're not supposed to do, and to not hyphenate compound adjectives, which you are supposed to do. This is a post to the cypherpunks list back in 2004. Here you have Adam Back using the term partial pre-image.
So the funny thing here is these are industry technical terms, a pre-image and some of the other things that he points examples to. It's just how we all write them in the industry. Sometimes tech terms, we put dashes in some of these.
And here you have Satoshi using the term. Our database initially contained more than 30,000 users. With the help of AI tools, we compiled all the hyphenation errors Satoshi had made in his texts.
So for guys like me that participated in Bitcoin Talk a decade ago plus, I guess we're just forever going to have all of our profiles and our comments continuously crawled over by reporters that are trying to crack the big case of who Satoshi is.
With the help of AI tools, we compiled all the hyphenation errors Satoshi had made in his texts, and the person who matched those hyphenation errors most closely was Adam Back. The foundational text of
So there you have it. They ran this crap the writings, the emails, all this crap. They ran it through an LLM, and the LLM suggested the person most oftenly cited as Satoshi is Satoshi.
Who matched those hyphenation errors most closely was Adam Back. The foundational text of Bitcoin is Satoshi's white paper. Satoshi references an invention by Adam Back called Hashcash.
Why would Satoshi mention Adam Back if Satoshi is Adam Back? If Satoshi has put all of this effort and has successfully remained anonymous for 15 years, well, for 17 years, but has been completely gone for 15 years, why would he screw up like this? The reason why Adam's name is in there is because Satoshi is citing proof of work, Hashcash. That's why Adam's name is in there. Because that's what you do in a white paper. It's the logic is silly.
Satoshi references an invention by Adam Back called Hashcash as the way to mine new Bitcoins. What's interesting is 2 months before Satoshi unveiled the white paper, Satoshi wrote emails to Adam Back. This is the first exchange of emails between them. That's kind of suspicious in and of itself.
So his, I guess, proposition here is that Satoshi is emailing himself?
Adam Back is the first person Satoshi was ever in contact with.
Now, how does he know that? Right? He just knows that particular email account and those particular email records, which have been made public.
Bitcoin was the closest manifestation of the vision Adam had laid out in the previous 10 years. And yet, when it was presented on the cryptography list in late 2008, Adam Back was nowhere to be found. But then Satoshi went dark in late April of 2011. And 6 weeks later, Adam Back started commenting about Bitcoin for the first time.
Adam has explained that timeline. He got interested, he started doing research, and he came across it.
Adams chalked all of this up to one big series of coincidences. The first time I met Adam in Las Vegas at the Venetian Hotel, he was very polite, very patient in answering my questions. But then, when I followed up with him about the emails that Satoshi had sent him and asked him for the metadata, he went dark. Looking at all the evidence I've collected over the past 18 months, I became more and more convinced that they were actually emails Adam Back had sent to himself.
Now, in the story, it's revealed that this reporter, if you want to call him that, stalked Adam for like a year at events and whatnot. So it's reasonable at a certain point, Adam started to get creeped out.
So I figured the best way to get to him was to go to the next Bitcoin conference that he was scheduled to speak at. When I started to press him about some of the evidence that was harder to explain away, his face turned red and he fidgeted. He continued to deny multiple times that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, but his body language told a different story. The ethos of Bitcoin is that it's a decentralized, collective project with no central authority, no hierarchy. If Satoshi is suddenly identified and becomes a real person, then that suddenly gives Bitcoin a leader. Adam Back doesn't want that. He knows that the community doesn't want that.
It's an interesting idea. If Satoshi were to come back, he would definitely be an influential, or she would be an influential voice, no doubt about it. But it would give them no more control over the network than Michael Saylor has. It doesn't change the distributed nature of the network. It doesn't redistribute the mining operation, doesn't change who develops and has commit access to the code. He would be a figurehead. So like this big reveal, yeah, it would be a big disruption. I'm not trying to downplay. It would be a big deal, but it wouldn't re-architect the way the Bitcoin network works. So the Daily, which is their daily Bitcoin or their daily news podcast that doesn't know anything about Bitcoin, they drag Adam on their podcast to, ask him point blank if he's Satoshi.
Adam Back, welcome to the Daily. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me on.
Should I call you Adam or Mr. Back or Mr.
Adam is
Nakamoto? Okay. It is what everybody's wondering. You are here, of course, because my colleague at the Times, John Carey-Rue, just published an investigation in which he presents a giant body of evidence gathered over more than a year.
Having a lot of LLM output and emails in Bitcoin talk forums does not make a giant body of evidence.
That points to you being the inventor of Bitcoin, someone who has operated under the alias Satoshi Nakamoto for 17 years. So I'm just going to ask you point blank, are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
No, I'm not. I think, of course, it's a fascinating topic as to who this person would be, and all of the sort of circumstantial evidence has been analyzed extensively by, many researchers. So effectively, I think what we're left with is sort of speculative analysis and, of course, looking at the historic writings, which John does an interesting job of in the article.
I think at this point, I want to bring John into the conversation. He's been listening in. Can we get John over here? Do you mind coming? I'm going to have him sit next to me. Great. Hi, John.
Hi, Adam. I just want to set aside for a second the question of whether you're Satoshi and ask you, if Satoshi were calling into this show today and I asked him, are you Satoshi? Do you think he would say yes?
Isn't this kind of like a when did you stop beating your wife sort of question? Like it feels really manipulative. There's no right answer here. So he's trapped.
Show today and I asked him, are you Satoshi? Do you think he would say yes?
Now, Adam has been accused of being Satoshi enough that I think his answer is it's as clever as you possibly can be to get out of this trap.
It's kind of hypothetical to me, right? Because I'm not, but I have seen a number of people in interview settings being asked that question and saying they wouldn't say or something like that, right? I think because there is some attraction to this idea that Bitcoin is stronger for not having a kind of vocal founder.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that's the common answer, and it sounds logical to me.
In other words, the common answer would be that Satoshi calling into the show wouldn't admit that he's Satoshi.
Well, I mean, I think my assumption is Satoshi simply would decline to participate or, be hard to identify even as a candidate to try to contact to bring into an interview.
And of course, this got enough steam that he ended up on CNBC, having to say once again he's not Satoshi. I'll skip that. I think you probably know how that went. He does admit in the CNBC interview, yeah, it's a fascinating question. I wonder myself sometimes. So do I. But, Satoshi gave us one of the greatest gifts humanity has ever given and walked away. And asked for really nothing except for being left alone. It's really the only thing Satoshi has ever asked from us, is to just be left alone. And that seems like a really, really, really small ask for what he's given, or she, or they. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a group of people. And so my thought is, since it doesn't really matter, it's a fully distributed free software project, let them have their privacy. And stop putting targets on people's back, because if some radical moron thought that Adam Back really was Satoshi, they could go grab a wrench and try to get some sats. Like, this needs to stop. Besides, the FUD tells me that it's all a CIA operation anyways. Yeah, I love this FUD. This might be my last one for a while. I've just been on a roll. Busting FUD. This might be a high note to end on. This is Professor Yang Quizin, I think maybe is how you say it. And he claims that Bitcoin is a CIA operation. He's known as Professor Yang. He is a Chinese-Canadian YouTuber who runs the YouTube channel Predictive History. He's best known for commenting on, geopolitics and game theory and historical patterns. And he's warning everybody that it's a CIA operation, and he's figured it out.
So the moment people recognize that this is a CIA operation, people won't put their money into blockchain.
No.
People won't put their money into Bitcoin. They'll be like, I mean, why would I do that? You have to ask yourself this question. Where are the blockchain servers located?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because I imagine if you're able to control the hardware, you can also control the software. I don't care what they tell me about open source and all that. I want to know where the databases are, where the servers are.
Yeah, where's the physical hardware, huh? That's your answer. So, of course, he urges his viewers not to invest due to the supposed centralization and control of the quote-unquote servers. All right, let's hit on that really quick. Bitcoin functions as a totally decentralized peer-to-peer network. The ledger is distributed across thousands of global nodes and miners. And there is no central server. There is no central control. I don't know how he could miss that. I'm not sure, because you'd think, like, the one upshot of all of the energy FUD for the last few years is it sort of makes it obvious. It puts it on blast. It's clear that Bitcoin's distributed, right? Because why else would this power thing be such a concern? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just feels like if you're kind of an anti-Bitcoin person and you're following Bitcoin FUD, and how would you miss all of the energy FUD and then not be able to come to the conclusion it's distributed? Like, that is wild. But let's do my favorite one. Bitcoin created by the CIA. All right, there is absolutely zero credible evidence for it. The closest anyone ever comes is that the NSA made contributions to SHA 256, right? That's the closest we ever come. Just to be clear, it's a ridiculous assumption. There's zero evidence. Satoshi Nakamoto released Bitcoin on a public cryptography mailing list. The Genesis block was mined on January 3rd, 2009. Satoshi communicated openly for about 2 years, disappeared in 2011. The entire early code base and every iteration, the white paper, all the forum posts, the emails, the public record are there. And in the 17 years since that, no document, no whistleblower, no leak, no forensic evidence has ever surfaced linking the CIA or any intelligence agency to the creation of Bitcoin. You understand, the very first commits, everything, the first block, everything. It's all public, all of it. And there has never, ever been any forensic or any kind of serious evidence to suggest any intelligence agency is involved. But more importantly than that, the design itself would make no sense as a CIA project. Bitcoin was built decentralized, permissionless, censorship-resistant. It could be viewed as a threat to the dollar. It removes trusted third parties, governments, banks, the third parties that intelligence agencies lean on. Bitcoin was a direct response to the 2008 bailouts. I was just having a conversation with my son about this last night. It was about 2008. If the CIA wanted controllable surveillance tools, they would have made something that was centralized, traceable by design, and easy to shut down. Not something where the ledger gets distributed to nodes worldwide in countries where they have no influence, with rules that are enforced by consensus of the community, which have been used to route around government sanctions and capital controls. You think the CIA would do that? Only if they could control and monitor it. And even if that were true, which is stupid, but, say they're playing some sort of like 8D chess here, and they were like way ahead of this, right? Because if they released it in 2008, then they must have been, for a government agency, they must have been working on it for years, right? So they were way ahead of this. They would not control it today. Claiming the CIA still secretly controls it after all of that big investment, all that time, is like claiming the inventor of the World Wide Web still runs every single website. Bitcoin was released as open source, and the moment that was done, the network became decentralized. Any secret control would have been totally evaporated. The system runs on voluntary participation, transparent rules, and economic incentive. So all of that is totally, totally separate of whoever might have started it. It's not only a stupid idea and never, ever been proven, but it wouldn't matter today because of the design of the system. So it's really some of the dumbest FUD out there. It's a good one. Let's check in on the state of the network. I'm wrapping up at block height 945,230. Current Bitcoin price in US dollar is 74,780. That makes our sats per dollar 1,337. We are down still 40.7% from our all-time high. I know it hurts, but it ain't 80%. It's been 191 long days. We've crossed 190 days. It's a bear market, boys. Rough. Woo! Our retarget date's just around the corner, April 17th, a downward adjustment of 3.1%. And there are currently 21,873 reachable Bitcoin nodes on the network. Price, up almost 5% over the last 7 days. Almost 1% over the last 30 days. We're still down 11% for the year. We have just 274 blocks until that retarget as well. And if you want to get a Bitcoin transaction through as fast as possible at this very moment, 3 sats for a VByte, per VByte. And if you have about, a half hour to spend, you could get a transaction through in 1 sat per VByte on the network right now. So the fees are quite low. Lightning Network is ticking along very well. In fact, the capacity is doing great. Jeez, look at that. Over 4,742 Bitcoin just standing by in total capacity. 3. Wow. Jeez, I'm just looking at the numbers go through right now. Total nodes, 9,987. Total channels, 39,320. Woo! 77% behind Tor. Look at the Lightning Network. 5,401 Lightning Tor nodes. Huh, that's fun. Lightning Network's has had a great year. Just quietly has had just a great year. All right, state of the network. It's looking strong. If you made it this far, links at thisweekinbitcoin.show. My goal is to give you a show that doesn't get distracted by the emotions around what's happening, but focuses on the signal so you can make plans for yourself, your future, your family, your friends, your biz, whatever it might be. Let me know how I did with the boost. I'd like to also know your thoughts on Saylor and if he's intentionally misleading people by categorizing Bitcoin as one particular thing. Just send a boost in with that too. Always appreciate it. Really fantastic support this week. Thank you everyone who stepped up to celebrate episode 100. That was really, truly something special. I mean, that's the kind of thing that the boys and I behind the scenes will be talking about for days. It really makes a difference. Going to go home tonight and tell the wife, like that. It's one of those days. Honey, it was a good day. It's really going to make a difference right now too. So thank you everybody. And of course, Linux Fest Northwest is just around the corner. If you want to come say hi and talk a little Bitcoin in person, I'd love to have you there. I think it's going to be a fun event. lfnw.org. And I will have a live Linux Unplugged on Sunday. Not quite sure right now. We're scheduled to be in one of the classrooms, and we might just go with that. I can be chill and do that and do the classroom thing. Or if the weather's nice, and sometimes in late April in the Pacific Northwest, guys, it's so beautiful. And if the weather's really nice, we might just do it outside, set up outside our buddy Brent's van and have a good time. But we'll keep you updated either way. We always have a lot of fun. I'm going to leave you with a value for value track. And if you boost in during this track, 95% of the sats do go to the artist. And this week, it's Against All My Love by FM Radio. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in episode 101.
Much hope and much remorse. It screams through broken doors. Hard times to be replaced. We're guilty face to face. I'm dreaming.